For 15 years, Emily and I were the couple everyone envied, or at least that's how it seemed. We had the kind of marriage people wrote greeting cards about: steady, affectionate, and built on trust. Or so I believe. I'd watch her at parties, her laughter lighting up the room, and feel a quiet pride that she was mine. We worked like a well oiled machine. I handled the blueprints of life, and she added the finishing touches that made it beautiful. Emily was magnetic, effortlessly charming everyone she met. She could convince a stranger to share their life story within minutes, her warmth disarming even the hardest hearts. I built houses, but she built connections. Together, we seemed unstoppable, hosting elegant dinner parties, taking perfect vacations, and filling photo albums with curated happiness. But all it took was one email, one misdirected message, to shatter the illusion. Her words weren't explicit, but the tone was unmistakable, warm, intimate, and far too familiar to be meant for me. I read it again and again, hoping for some innocent explanation, but the pit in my stomach grew. That Wednesday had been perfectly ordinary. Emily said she had to work late, and we had a quiet dinner when she got home. Nothing had hinted at deceit. I didn't confront her that night. I couldn't. Her easy smile and relaxed demeanor clashed with the voice in the email. I told myself it was a mistake, that maybe I was reading into things. But doubt is persistent. For the first time in 15 years, I felt like a stranger in my own marriage. In the days that followed, I watched her with new eyes. She seemed distracted. Her phone was always within reach, and her laughter was more private when messages came through. At the same time, she was oddly affectionate, as if trying to distract me from noticing something. I tried to rationalize it. Stress from work, problems with a friend, but the weight of suspicion only grew heavier. Eventually, I contacted Lauren Reed, a private investigator I'd heard about from a friend. Explaining my suspicions felt surreal. Lauren listened without judgment and promised to find the truth. While I waited, I clung to the hope that I was wrong, that Emily would explain it all away with that radiant smile. But each day made it harder to believe. When Lauren's first report arrived, I waited until I was alone to open it. Inside were photos: Emily with a man I didn't recognize, sitting across from each other at a quiet cafe. They weren't touching, but there was an unmistakable intimacy in the way she leaned toward him, how his hand grazed hers. A second set showed them entering a boutique hotel. They didn't leave for hours. The man was Ryan Adams, an entrepreneur who often collaborated with Emily on events. I knew of him, had even shaken his hand once. That only deepened the betrayal. Their affair wasn't some reckless mistake. It had been going on for months: secret meetings, getaways, even a lake house he owned hours away. This wasn't spontaneous lust, it was routine. Still, I didn't confront her. I needed more than truth. I needed control. I decided to let it continue while I planned my next steps. Lauren intercepted their emails. Ryan's were nauseatingly tender. "You're the only thing that makes my life worth living." He planned getaways and whispered dreams, while Emily responded with affection and guilt-laced longing. At home, I played the part of the loving husband. I listened to her stories, laughed at her jokes, and even planned little surprises to throw her off. My first move came when I learned about an upcoming rendezvous. I sabotaged her car that morning, just a loose valve on her tire. When she called in a panic, I showed up like a hero. I worked slowly, chatting about the weather while she fidgeted beside me. By the time I finished, she was over an hour late. I smiled all the way home. In the following weeks, I continued my quiet war. I canceled hotel reservations under Ryan's name. I sent anonymous texts to his wife, Melissa, suggesting infidelity. I even arranged for a fire alarm to interrupt one of their dinners. Tensions flared between them. Emily complained about complications. Ryan grew impatient with her unreliability. To further sow discord, I sent an anonymous letter to Melissa describing Ryan's favorite cafe and hinting at meetings with someone he wasn't married to. Ryan's next email to Emily was full of complaints. "Melissa's been acting weird. I think she suspects something." Still, Emily clung to him, so I escalated. Their next meeting was at a more upscale hotel. I called ahead, impersonated Ryan, and canceled the reservation. Then I sat in the lobby watching their faces as they were turned away. They argued briefly and left in frustration. That night, Emily was tense and irritable. When I asked if she was okay, she muttered, "Rough day," and went to bed early. I didn't press. Soon after, I learned Ryan had booked a private room at a fancy restaurant for her birthday. I called an hour before, claiming to be a fire marshal reporting a gas leak. The restaurant was evacuated just as they arrived. Their romantic dinner ended on the sidewalk, watching their plans disintegrate again. Back home, I continued playing the doting husband. I cooked her favorite meals, left notes in her briefcase, and even arranged a weekend spa getaway. At first, she seemed suspicious, but slowly she responded, lingering longer at dinner and initiating intimacy again. She smiled more. I pretended it was a rekindling of our marriage, but it was all a carefully set trap. When Ryan proposed a weekend at the lake house, I invited Emily's sister, Sarah, to visit instead. Emily was caught off guard, but hid it well. She couldn't sneak away with Sarah around. By the end of the weekend, she was unraveling. I overheard her tell Ryan, "This isn't working anymore." He replied with resignation, "I guess this is goodbye." Emily thought it was over, that we could start anew. She had no idea the final act was coming. A few days later, she came home late again. I greeted her with wine and warmth, hiding the envelope on the table containing everything: photos, emails, detective reports, and divorce papers. After dinner, I invited her to sit with me. "We need to talk," I said calmly. She looked uneasy. I slid the envelope across the table. She opened it slowly, her hands trembling. One by one, she pulled out the evidence, her face drained of color. She tried to speak but found no words. When she reached the divorce papers, she broke. "Ethan, please, I can explain." I cut her off. "You don't need to. I know everything." She began to cry, but I ended it. "I chose you. Doesn't that mean anything?" "You didn't choose me, Emily. You chose convenience. You chose to protect yourself." Then I dropped the final blow, a letter addressed to Melissa Adams, Ryan's wife. "She deserves the truth. So does your sister." I sent her a letter too. Emily collapsed into sobs. "You've been so kind these past few weeks. I thought you still loved me." "That's why I did it," I said. "I wanted you to feel what I felt. You took everything from me. Now I'm taking back my dignity." On the table, I left a copy of the Cask of Amontillado, the passage on revenge highlighted. I walked away without looking back. The next morning, I returned only to collect my belongings. The house felt like hers now, her scent, her pictures, her ghosts. Through friends, I heard the aftermath unfold. Sarah had cut ties with her. Melissa divorced Ryan, taking half his assets in the lake house. Their affair became gossip, and Emily's reputation took a hit. Clients dropped her. Her once thriving business began to crumble. Meanwhile, I traveled Greece, Japan, Patagonia, places I had always wanted to see. I reflected on everything. I felt no guilt. My actions had been necessary. But even justified revenge leaves scars. I had won, but the cost was steep. Months later, Emily sent a handwritten letter. "I was stupid. I made the worst mistake of my life. Please give me a chance to make it right." I read it twice, then filed it away. There was nothing more to say. Time passed. I began to rebuild. I reconnected with friends, spent time with family. Eventually, I met someone, Sophie, an art curator with a quick wit and a kind heart. She knew my past, at least the parts I shared. She never pressed. With her, I found something I didn't expect: peace. Looking back, I don't regret what I did. I exposed the truth. I reclaimed my dignity. But it wasn't until I let go of revenge that I truly began to heal. Emily's betrayal taught me how fragile trust can be, but it also taught me how strong I could be when everything fell apart. Now, sitting on the balcony of my new apartment, the sun setting over the horizon, I finally feel like I've found peace. The chapter with Emily is closed. The future, a blank canvas, waits to be painted.